but also going the extra mile of showing that Ms. Heard physically abused him. She's the abuser in this courtroom. Let's move to the falsity of Ms. Heard's ever-evolving and ever-escalating change of IPV and sexual assault. Mr. Depp's sworn denial is all he needs to survive a motion to strike, but there's a lot more than that, Your Honor, and I'll try to be brief. 3 police officers, actually 4, but the 3 who testified already, Officers Sines, Haddon, and Gatlin, testified unequivocally that Ms. Heard did not have a mark on her on the evening of May 21, 2016. And I could go through, I'll just go through very quickly. Officer Haddon, strike that. Officer Melissa Sines on jury trial day 10. Question, did you provide a copy of this pamphlet to Amber Heard? Answer, I did not. I didn't identify her as a victim of domestic abuse. The next day, Officer Melissa Sines. Okay, at this time, did you notice any injuries on Ms. Heard? Officer Sines, I did not. Question, okay, were you looking to see if she had any injuries on her at the time? Officer Sines, yes, I was. Question, and so you were looking to see if Ms. Heard had any injuries and you determined that she did not. Is that accurate? Officer Sines, correct. Question, okay, and was the lighting good enough in the hallway for you to make that determination? Answer, yes, the hallway was well lit. Officer Gatlin's testimony was the same, and he had the body cam. Officer Haddon's testimony was the same. The testimony of nurses Debbie Lloyd and Erin Barem, who, like the police officers, did not work for Mr. Depp. In fact, they worked for Dr. Kipper, also belie Ms. Heard's false allegations of abuse. Isaac Baruch and Alejandro Romero both testified that they saw Ms. Heard repeatedly and in the clear light between May 21, 2021, which was the last time Mr. Depp saw her before leaving on the Hollywood Vampires tour. The next time he was to see her was when Ms. Heard begged him to come see her in San Francisco, which is hardly the act of a domestic abuse victim. So we have Isaac Baruch and Mr. Romero saying that they saw Ms. Heard repeatedly in the interval of time between May 21 and May 27th, when she obtained the farce ex parte TRO, and they saw no marks on her face and no swelling. 2 witnesses, Mr. Baruch and Brandon Patterson, saw the video of Ms. Heard and her sister Whitney pantomiming the fake punch after this alleged incident of abuse. Ms. Heard's former personal assistant, Kate James, and several other witnesses, including Dr. David Kipper, saw no violence by Mr. Depp and no injuries to Ms. Heard. Indeed, witness after witness has come forward to testify that Ms. Heard, far from being a domestic figure representing domestic violence, unquote, is in fact a recidivist perpetrator of domestic violence on Mr. Depp and others. We have the testimony, the harrowing testimony of Mr. Depp himself, who described several witnesses. One, as Your Honor will recall, when he was hiding in the bathroom after escaping one of her attacks, and she claims to have hurt her foot kicking the door. Mr. Depp opens the door to see if she's hurt, and then she kicks the door in on him and punches him. We have the incident of December 15, 2015, when Ms. Heard threw punches at him wildly at the back and side of his head. Mr. Depp testified that he ducked and covered to protect his face. Eventually, he turned around to grab her and stop her arms from flailing. December 15 in the Bahamas, during an argument, Ms. Heard grabbed a can of mineral spirits and threw it at Mr. Depp's face, striking him in the forehead, bridge, and nose area, and the jury saw a photograph of the bridge on the bruise of his nose. We have testimony from Mr. And by the way, Tara Roberts, who is the manager of the island, confirmed that the incident with the mineral spirits. You have Mr. Depp's testimony of what happened on April 22nd, 2016. And we've heard testimony today from Aaron Borum-Filati that Mr. Depp was very responsive, was very sociable, was not in any way inebriated that day when Ms. Heard says he was, and she attacked him that night as well. And I'm getting to the end of this, Your Honor. We have testimony from Travis McGivern that on February 23rd, 2015, Ms. Heard threw and hit Mr. Depp with a can of Red Bull and then sucker punched him with a closed fist. Finally, we have the rather stunning testimony of Ben King, quite a credible witness who accompanied Ms. Heard on the flight back from Australia, where Ms. Heard admits to him in a rhetorical question, quote, "Did you ever totally lose it on someone you love?" Which was, we would respectfully submit, an admission of her severing the top or the tip of Mr. Depp's finger. Mr. Depp produced several credible witnesses and documents proving that Ms. Heard was implying that he committed sexual violence against her. Mr. Depp himself testified to that, as did his sister, Christy Dombrowski. Mr. Depp's former agent, Christian Carino, testified that, as did his current agent, Jack Wiggum. But perhaps most convincing of all, and most disgusting of all, was the testimony of the ACLU's Terrence Doherty, a lawyer nonetheless. Mr. Doherty testified, among other things, that when they were pitching the op-ed to the Washington Post, they stated, "Hey, Michael, wondering if we might interest you in a piece by Amber Heard, who, as you may recall, was beaten up during her brief marriage to Johnny Depp, on what the incoming Congress can do to help protect women in similar situations." Mr. Doherty also testified that everybody understood, as Ms. Heard and the ACLU clearly intended, that this statement and the other two statements referred directly to Mr. Depp. Quote, "This is an article that was in USA Today and specifically ties Amber's statement in her op-ed piece to Johnny Depp." And when Jessica Weitz, who actually wrote the op-ed that Ms. Heard later adopted, she says, quote, to Mr. Doherty, "So much for not mentioning JD," when the USA Today made clear that they, like everybody else who read the op-ed, understood that, as Ms. Heard clearly intended, it referred to Mr. Depp, which makes her Instagram post 2 days before the trial began, that she didn't mention Mr. Depp, all the more outrageous. Your Honor, there is Ms. Schulman, also of the ACLU, acknowledged that Ms. Heard's op-ed referred to Mr. Depp. So it's very clear that the ACLU and Ms. Heard intended. That was the whole purpose of this, so that they could get interest in this and it would coincide with the premiere of Aquaman, because otherwise no one would have been interested in anything written by Ms. Heard. Mr. Doherty also testified that Ms. Heard only paid 1.3, actually she didn't even pay all that, out of the $3.5 million that she had pledged to the ACLU, and then they helped her lie about it. And it's one thing, Your Honor, for her to stiff the ACLU, which frankly played a reprehensible role in this case. It's quite another for her to fail to honor her obligation to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles with sick and dying children, and that she failed to do as well. And as Your Honor has mentioned, the fact that she put her name on that article means that she is responsible for all of those statements, which she specifically adopted later. Everybody and his grandmother testified that Ms. Heard was referring to her bogus ex parte TRO that she obtained on May 27, 2016. And it was interesting that Mr. Depp's own lawyer said that she wasn't even provided notice. So Ms. Heard made very sure that Mr. Depp wouldn't have notice of the ex-party TRO, and Ms. Heard herself, the evidence shows, knew that Mr. Depp, having just suffered the loss of his mother, was already on the other side of the country, was already in New York at the time of this TRO, and was heading to Europe for several weeks. So she knew she didn't need any protection from him. This was just a scam for her to get the $7 million in the divorce settlement that she said she gave to the ACLU. She swore she gave to the ACLU and the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, and she pocketed instead. Mr. Depp, Ms. Dombrowski, Mr. Carino, Mr. Wiggum, and the inimitable Mr. Doherty of the ACLU, which lent its once respected name to Ms. Heard's defamation.